Yes, people, what's going on? Welcome back to United View. What's going on, people? What's going on? I've started in a bad way, obviously, because Owen's not here for technology. Let me get the logo right there. Rasmus Hojlund more likely to leave Manchester United than stay with Inter Milan firmly there for a permanent deal. That is according to Laurie Whitwell, Mr. Tier One Laurie, Mr. Tier One Laurie. He's come straight out of the bag and said, "Listen." Manchester United are looking at getting Rasmus Hojlund to move on, and it looks most likely that it's going to be Inter. He said this on the Talk of the Devils podcast that he does with the Athletic, of course. He says Rasmus Hojlund is more likely to leave Manchester United than stay this summer as it stands. It would also be more likely as a permanent sale than a loan. Inter Milan are there firmly. And how many times, people? How many times have we been talking about outgoings? And actually, really, Rasmus hasn't really been top of the outgoings list. Not because everyone thinks he should stay because he's good enough and it's fine, but because there's players that are probably, it feels like, are closer to exits and the ones that are definitely for sale. Obviously, Sancho, Rashford, Anthony, Garnacho, etc., especially those four. But Rasmus has always been the one whereby we've looked at it and thought, obviously, we know we all need a new striker. Everybody knows we need a striker. We're looking for a striker, but our ability to get one in is probably going to depend on not just outgoings, but it might even depend on Rasmus having to go. And it's no surprise. It's no surprise. In fact, it's music to a lot of our ears, to be honest. Like, Rasmus has really, really struggled this year. And I'm in the camp of this. Everybody says, I say everybody, a lot of people say, Rasmus, worst striker ever, totally terrible, worst player we've ever bought. And I don't think all of that's true. That wasn't the consensus after year one. The consensus after year one with Rasmus was he scored, 16 goals in his first season. There was a couple of, I think, player of the months in there, or he did all right, and some of the goals he scored, especially in Europe, you went, you know what, really raw kid, but there's something there. There's something to work on. There's something to build upon. Then this season happened and it's a total disaster. Subsequently, his confidence goes and then he does look like a really bad player. And I think it's somewhere in the middle. He absolutely isn't good enough to start for Man United. He absolutely isn't good enough to be our number 9. But in a different situation, in a different scenario, he wouldn't have been put into the position whereby he was the main guy and had to have the goal scoring burden on his shoulders as a number 9, having paid that much money for him as well, by the way. It's just a deal that should never have happened in that way for that money and for him to get that squad role. It's as simple as that. If he had someone to learn off, if he was in and out of the team, we could be looking at a different Rasmus Hojlund, but unfortunately we're not. And we find ourselves in this position. We have to cut ties because we need a serious striker. And the fact that Inter Milan are there, that Laurie Whitwell saying that, is a massive plus. At the time of recording this, I'm just going to keep an eye on anything to make sure I don't miss anything that comes up whilst recording this. But yeah, I think it's a big deal that he's saying that it's more likely to leave than stay, because we haven't really seen that line, really, have we? We haven't really seen a line as strong as that. And also, what does this mean for the Ollie Watkins deal? Because earlier on today, I think, was it the Mirror? Or I can't remember who said it, actually. It's been such a long day. You've just been talking about so much news all day. Who said the Ollie Watkins one? It was the Mirror. I was right. I'm thinking it was the Mirror. That Man United are stepping up their interest in Ollie Watkins. Aston Villa want around 60 million for him, but United are unwilling to pay that much, which absolutely we need to be unwilling to pay that much. But this ties in. Nearly done a Victor Gyökeres there. This ties in with Ollie Watkins because, one, okay, the price is set. Maybe 60 million price is set. That's too high. We don't want to pay that. But maybe there's a deal to be done. And if we get shot of Rasmus for a decent fee to Inter Milan, then again, it enables us to be able to at least go to the table of Aston Villa and look at Ollie Watkins. And actually, I say that, Ollie, that's just tied in because that's today's news. And of course, there's reports saying that we're stepping up our interest in him and the price has been set and we know that he's been on the list. Laurie Whitwell was talking about that a couple of days ago. But obviously, that might not even be your number 1 target. Maybe you can still get Victor Gyökeres. Maybe we can. But with the talks of Arsenal and how that looks like it could be progressing, who knows? Whilst he's not an Arsenal player and he's still a Sporting player, I suppose there's always a chance. But we have to start being real about what our targets are. I think if Victor Gyökeres, gets taken off the menu because he goes to Arsenal, it doesn't leave us with a lot. It doesn't leave us with a lot, which is why I'm here for Ollie Watkins. And listen, I know there were some people in the chat who are not for it. Definitely, if the numbers work for me, I think we have to try. I think he could be the best signing that we make. I think it could be a really smart signing. Some people think that, it's the wrong thing to do because he's 30 or he's nearly 30. If you give Ollie Watkins a 3-year contract, that means he'll be 32 by the end of that contract, and you've got the option for an extra year. That makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't on one hand, yes, we want to rebuild, and yes, we've pivoted to getting younger players and making the next and, the type of profile. But, I don't understand. What I don't get is this people being wedded to like, he's 30, so that means you can't spend no money on him because there's no sell-on value. Like, the value in getting someone who's ready-made at 29 is the fact that they can come in and do the job now. Do you know what I mean? If there's an opportunity to get somebody as good as him, who knows the league, who scores a lorry load of goals, I say a lorry load, knows where the back of the net is, has proved that in the last 5 seasons in a row, it won't affect the progress of like Chido, as a young striker. And it takes the burden off of a lot of the other goal scoring burden that is on the team. So it's like, I don't understand why people are wedded to that thing. If you have to get Ollie Watkins in and you give him 160 grand a week, 170 grand a week, I don't see that being a big problem. Strikers are hard to come by, people. It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to recruit for. It's the hardest thing to do in football. It's the hardest thing to get on a consistent basis. So it's the hardest thing to bank on, goals, but it's the most important thing to bank on because that's what wins you football matches. That's what wins you football matches. You have to score goals. And for me, yes, 60 million is too high. And that just goes to show you, anyone who thought you can get Ollie Watkins for like 35 million, 40 million quick time, you're mistaken. Aston Villa are going to drive a hard bargain, but there could be a deal to be done. But back to Rasmus Hojlund, it's important that he leaves, basically, for that to happen. Yes, there's positive reports. Shout out Dharma Chef, if you know, you know. Shout out Dharmesh at Sky. I saw his update earlier, which is along the lines of the continuation of the line that, talks are progressing well with Juventus. There's a willingness on all parties to do a deal. That's looking more positive. We'll see whether that's a loan. We'll see whether it's permanent. If it's permanent and we can get 25 million for Jadon Sancho or 20 plus some add-ons or whatever it may be, great. It really helps us, but it's still a massive loss. Rashford is going to be a loan. Garnacho is the one that is a sellable asset for a good lot of money as well. And the thing with Rasmus Hojlund is yes, freeing up the space on the budget for him, but it's still going to be a loss. It's going to have to be, for it to not be a loss, it's going to have to be a certain amount of money. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I remember reading that it was around 35 million is what would kind of need for Rasmus to make that not go down as a monumental L. But how much of that will we be able to use on the transfers? Look, the budget's tight. We know the budget's tight. So for me, get it done. If Rasmus is going to go, it's unfortunate for him that it didn't work out. But at the end of the day, we have to move on. We have to move on. So I'm here for it. Let's see how this one rolls out. Significant from Laurie Whitwell to say that it looks like Rasmus Hojlund is nearer to leaving Man United. Looks more likely that he's going to leave than he does staying with Inter Milan firmly there. Inter remain interested in the Dane. So let's hopefully let's hope that this materializes and we can get some targets of our own. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know how you guys are thinking about this and how this is going to play out. Take care. I'm out of here. Peace.